Welcome to Beyond the Law.
Beyond Law Group's podcast that brings you unfiltered conversations
with our lawyers, clients and friends.
We'll be having frank discussions about our experiences in the legal sector,
sharing our thoughts on current topics from a legal and a personal standpoint,
as well as offering our top tips for those pursuing a career in law.
Beyond the Law.
Beyond the Law.
Beyond the Law.
Hello and welcome to a Beyond the Law podcast. My name is Jason Stanley. I'm a partner at McAlister Family Law, and I'm absolutely delighted to introduce not one but two of my esteemed colleagues at McAlister Family Law. We have Melissa Jones, a Senior Associate Solicitor, and Ruth Hetherington, Head of Private Children Family. Welcome both, and thank you for giving up your time to take part in this. Today is a celebration of not one but two but four reported cases that you've collectively been involved with. And it's an unbelievable achievement. So congratulations. I'm delighted to be even sitting near you and be in the presence of legal goddesses. OTT. Melissa, it's useful just to explain to the listeners out there what a reported case is. For somebody who doesn't know, or maybe a junior solicitor, what is a reported case? In simple words.
Yes, so it's a decision by a judge to allow their judgment that they give in a court hearing to be made public, and it informs case law.
And the idea is to at least set a precedent, isn't it? So that it's a guideline, a beacon for any person or a case that's very similar in fact or law to not have to litigate for months and incur a lot of costs. The whole point is that you could quote it if you're negotiating, say in this particular case, such and such happened, so let's not litigate, let's try and settle.
Yeah, it's helpful for practitioners in that sense, because it can also educate. Other judges can also read it and see what's happening on the ground. And if you're a lay client, you can look at the case and say, well, that's quite similar to mine, and it might help you.
Yes. And in our industry, we're all specialists in children work, the legislation is so out of date in many respects, over 20 years out of date. And I feel that the point about a reported case is it allows us to move with the times. Modernity or social issues of control or certain behaviours that may not have been around 20, 25 years ago can be dealt with and managed by a court. And would you agree with that synopsis, Ruth? Would you say it has an importance, a reported case?
Yes, it absolutely does, because you're right, we've got legislation, predominantly the Children Act, 1989. And the courts...
I had hair, I think. That's how old it is.
What the courts have to look at is obviously that piece of legislation. Us as lawyers, we have to be guided by that, absolutely. But what case law does is it kind of, like you say, moves with the times. So if we've got, like Melissa has said, a very interesting or niche area of law that needs to be amplified, it means that you can then use case law and the legislation to then argue any future cases.
Yes, and during a case, how do you perceive a judge might think it's going to be one that deserves reporting? And sort of how does it work in practical terms? If you're halfway through a trial, do you get a sense that the judge might be interested in this is quite groundbreaking?
Yes, and it depends which judge you're before, because some judges will actually give you advance warning that I'm considering reporting this case.
Interesting.
So they will give you some advance warning, some judges. But realistically, as lawyers, I think it's where you are getting a very, like I say, niche area of law, where you think, actually, this is something that could potentially be reported.
Yes. Are you kind of nervous if you get an indication from a judge this is going to be a reported case, you're going to be in the public forum, it's your case that you spent ages running?
Not really, because it's something that really you can go through the whole of your career as a lawyer and never have a reported case. So Melissa and I, we've been privileged to work on these cases because we've got 4 reported cases between us in the same 4 months, really.
For sure.
So, to actually be part of that and for this firm to be part of that, I think is an incredible journey for any solicitor to go on.
Melissa, in terms of the individuals who are taking part in this case, and we're talking about children here who are minors and GDPR and privilege and data, how does the court deal with that? Because this is somebody's really darkest, deepest secrets in many respects. How does the court deal with that?
Well, there's a level of being anonymous.
Yes.
So in my cases, the court will redact specific information relating to a client. So to keep both the parties' information secret,
Yes.
and also specifically the children, so that they can't be identified.
Absolutely.
So it works in that way.
And then the beauty, I suppose, is that the principles of law, the issues that have been discussed, then are published so that they form part of these guidelines.
Absolutely, yes.
Just interjecting on that, from a children's, my career has predominantly been children focused and acting for children as well. So when these cases come about, people's names and children in particular, it's initials.
Yes.
And sometimes it might not even correlate to the initials within the case.
I've got you. So if the kid's called Peter Jones, it's not PJ.
It might not be PJ. Right. They might say AB.
Sure.
So, the public needs to be reassured that if one of these cases is reported, the courts go to quite long lengths, really, to make sure that the identity of the parties, and in particular the children,
Yes.
is protected. These cases are looking at a niche area of law.
Yes.
That's what they're focused on.
Yes.
And so, like Melissa says, all of the personal information is taken out, and there's a process where all the lawyers can be involved in that. So, it's not just the court that's redacting it. You can have an input into whether or not you think something needs to be taken out of a judgment.
And just sort of, if I may, and you may be uncomfortable with this question, but the fact that our firm and our department have an array of reported cases, it's not just 2 that you've been involved with, there's at least 7 or 8, and yourself too. That's a phenomenal achievement for a firm, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. And it's testament to the service levels that we give to clients and the way in which we will, as a team, test the law. And if we feel very strongly that a client has got something that they need to argue, we will argue it. And I think that that's a testament to this firm.
And I suppose the experience that you've been through in relation to these cases, do you foresee, you're getting more and more niche as we get specialist and dealing at the forefront of almost legal change in many respects. It's not changing statute, but you're influencing how a judge or a case may be run. Do you see that becoming even more prevalent as we get more and more niche and experience with this kind of work?
I think so, and I think Melissa would probably agree. We deal with very, very complex children cases, and it's across the board. So it doesn't matter what your case is about. There seems to be, and I don't know what you think about this, I think we're getting more and more complex cases, and I think that we're ready to run them.
And I think when you look at the reported cases, you've got to also look at the other lawyers on those cases and the minds behind these applications that are being made.
Yes.
And the decisions that are being made by the judges. It's a team effort. And I think that needs to be recognised as well.
And do you think it's a good thing to have reported cases as a concept? As I say, it's that evolution and trying to modernise law. Do you think it works well? In your opinion?
Yes, I do, because you do have to evolve, and reported cases have been around, obviously, a lot longer than my career. But yes, I think it's the right sort of process to keep up with the times.
Well, again, thank you for your time. Again, huge congratulations. It's something that we are all very proud of at this firm. So thank you for giving your time.
Thank you for having us on.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Law.
To keep up to date with all things Beyond, follow us on our socials at Beyond Law Group.
You can tune in to our next episode wherever you find your podcasts.